I just saw a video of Michael Flynn on the podcast interview, disgraced Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, the one who called for martial law in order for Donald Trump to stay in power. Not because we're in the middle of a war, only to stay in power.
About 75 to 80% of the Constitution is created, and I use that word specifically, is created by the Bible itself, Declaration of
Yeah,
Independence and the Bill of Rights, right? I mean, the 10 Bill of Rights, like I say, the Bill of Rights and the Ten Commandments, right? The Bill of
that's
Rights and the
good.
Ten Commandments are the promises that we make to each other when you really dig in and you list and you read the Bill of Rights and you list and read the Ten Commandments. Those are promises that we make, and then the fulfillment of those promises, are the Constitution and the Bible. That's how we get fulfillment of those promises.
That's
So
good.
I kind of have learned that, I guess, in the last in probably the last few years, and I think partially because the more that I have studied our nation and what's happening right now, what I have come to the realization of is that we in fact were created by the Creator, right? I mean, it's mentioned in the God, it's mentioned in the Declaration of Independence, right?
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah, it is very
yeah, big
clearly.
time.
This is perhaps one of the biggest problems I have with religious people in this country. People who want to cling to religion or cling to the flag or our Constitution without even knowing the slightest idea what they are. What General Flynn did shows me exactly the kind of problem we're facing today, especially with the overturning of Roe v. Wade and the possible taking of marriage equality. And one of these, and I'm going to read you an article that illustrates my anger at this. It's again from my friend John Pavlovitz. Good people are tired of pretend patriots and the phony faithful. This is exhausting. I think I figured out why. I think it's the pretending. I think it's bad watching nearly half our nation become fully entrenched and indoctrinated into a syphilitic cult of personality of the very worst kind of person. To see once reasonable people abandon any semblance of benevolence towards desperate humanity, to find themselves so deluded by tribalism that they declare war on vaccines, on the LGBTQ, on minorities, and the electoral process, all the while assuming some supposed moral high ground. As infuriating as it is to witness tens of millions of Americans having their minds slowly poisoned by Tucker Carlson and the rest of Fox News, by Mary Jean Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert and the rest of the Republican Party, by Franklin Graham and his evangelical cult, to the point where they defend a domestic attack on our capital, or take the side of a murderous Russian dictator committing war crimes, or advocate for the removal of voting rights, is adding terrible insult to moral injury to have them invoke the love of God and country in the process. I think that's what makes these days so difficult for many of us, not merely coming to terms with the beliefs and prejudices and phobias of those we daily are surrounded by, but having to contend with their very constant projection about us and their refusal to simply own who they are. We're sick of traitors masquerading as patriots, of the treasonous continual waving of the flag, of the hateful people peddling a God of love, of human beings with no empathy pretending they care about the sanctity of life, of the loudest prophets of America first having the least regard for America or Americans. We're tired of the Stop the Steal protesters who wanted to overturn an election by force. Where the selflessness, sacrifice, and hospitality that we're supposed to mark the lives of people who do love God and country? Where are the lives that replicate the embrace of the poor, huddled masses affixed to liberty? Those who emulate the love of desperate neighbors at the heart of the Gospels. Patriot, Christian, American. These words have lost all their meaning. Words that used to cost something mean to claim labels that were once came with an amalgam of transformation. Self-identifiers that previously required a measure of evidence displayed in one's life. The flag and the cross used to hold such meaning to so many of us are now just stolen iconography wielded by the immigrant-hating wall builders and violent anti-abortion zealots. Using these words and wearing those symbols are no more difficult now as they align us with the antithesis of moral convictions. People who truly love this country, those who earnestly seek a faith expressed in love, human beings who are burdened to make America worthy of the speeches and the anthems, we find ourselves branded as heretics and traitors and apostles, and forcibly displaced from religion and country by these squatters who have taken up residence in them. I can testify to that personally, more on that in a few moments. True patriots should want all Americans to vote. Should they oppose a murderous dictator? Should they yield to the Constitution and not to their message boards? Actual followers of the Lord Jesus Christ should welcome the refugee, as is said in the Gospel. They should defend the orphan, as it is said in the Gospel. They should give comfort to the sick, as it is said in the Gospel. And they should love the least among us, as is said in the Gospel. And while the masqueraders and pretenders parade around in grave, performative acts of love of God and country while willfully betraying both, the rest of us are going to have to fight to hold on to our religion and our nation and care for a world that needs desperate, authentic people of faith, morality, and conscience who simply live a love that doesn't need to declare itself loving. Now, earlier I read this one piece in this article. I think what makes these days so difficult for so many of us, not merely coming to terms with the beliefs and prejudices and phobias that we are surrounded daily by here, but having to contend with their constant projection about us and their refusal to simply own what they are. I can attest to that personally. In the last 6 years, thanks to the election of Donald Trump and my opposition to that, my opposition to Donald Trump personally, I've been called everything in the book, up to and past the N-word. I've been accused of being a baby raper. I've been accused of being a baby killer. I've been accused of being a drug dealer just because I'm black. All of it because I refuse to support the Republican Party or Donald Trump. I've been called a Muslim terrorist because I don't support Trump. So I can attest to what was said in this article. And the fact is, when people like Michael Flynn, I think he's probably one of the biggest fingers to be pointing at. People like him, especially him, are the ones who advocated for the January 6th attack. More to the point, and more importantly, this is a man who goes out and says God created the Constitution. No, he didn't. God blessed us to create the United States of America. But he also gave people who created the Constitution. But using God, I think, is as some kind of get out of jail free card when people like Mike Flynn and so many others out there supporting Donald Trump to somehow say that God is letting me do this while you're insulting people who are pro-abortion, who are pro-choice, who don't have the same skin tone, who vote for someone else other than the person you support. Using God as a co-conspirator is very dangerous, in my view. Michael Flynn is going to learn that lesson soon. All we can do, us real Americans and us real Christians. Now, I'm not playing holier than thou. I've done bad things in my life, and so have you. But I'm willing to own up and take responsibility for those bad things. People like Michael Flynn never want to. People like the Donald Trump supporters out there never want to. And people like Donald Trump himself don't want to. As far as I'm concerned, you wave the flag, you need to understand what that flag is supposed to mean. You want to use the Constitution as holy writ, you need to understand what that Constitution means. All of it. Michael Flynn should know what that Constitution means. The Oath Keepers, some of them who were former members of the United States military, should understand what that means. But every evangelical should understand what both the Constitution and what the Bible is supposed to mean. But every single one of them, the people I just named, violate either the Constitution or the Bible in the hopes of regaining power. That is wrong. It needs to stop. And I hope to God everyone understands what that means. Because as bad as the names I've been called, they're going to call you names as well. They're going to call you names because they have nothing else. They're going to accuse you of being everything in the world. Everything that you probably haven't even thought of. But you know who you are. And you know what you support. Stand by who you are. And stand by what you support. CTP, know the truth. God bless. Peace to the left. Justice to the right. And one more thing. Thursday night is the last night, well, maybe officially the last night. Now, they may have another hearing here or there of the January 6th committee hearings. Now, I will do a final video, possibly late Thursday night or early Friday morning about this. But I'm also going to do a live video sometime this coming weekend. I'll let you guys know when, about the situation, about my final thoughts of the January 6th committee, and hopefully closing the book on it. Because after this, the DOJ needs to arrest Donald Trump. And I'm going to make that very clear in my live video coming soon. Thanks for watching.